If your lodge disappeared tomorrow, would you miss the meetings or the brothers?
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor appendant body of Freemasonry.
Welcome to another monthly episode of Masonic Shelf Shorts. Great Masonic education in 10 minutes or less. My name is Chris Williams.
And I'm Brad Kohanke, and this month's guest is a past master of Brookshire Masonic Lodge number 1066 and co-owner of the San Antonio Hat Company. He's a good friend of ours. His name is Brother Chris Ryland, and he's going to be providing a very interesting Masonic educational short today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Tonight we're going to talk about the need for fellowship in our fraternity. The need for fellowship is something that we lack a lot of. A lot of us show up to meetings, to our stated meetings, and we eat dinner, maybe say hi to a couple of different people. We go in, we do our business, and then we just kind of get in our cars and go home. That's not what our fraternity was originally designed for. It's not the way our fraternity has been, for lack of a better term, it's lacking if we're only doing that. In order to get the most out of our fraternity, we have to include fellowship. We call each other brothers, but are we actually being brotherly if we just show up to a stated meeting, do our business, and then go home? The best way to get to know somebody and to actually be able to call and refer to someone as a brother is to get to know them on a more personal level, which involves fellowship. There's a lot of lodges that have different ways of doing fellowship, whether they have a breakfast that everybody gathers at. Maybe they go to dinner once a month and bring the families out. Sometimes they just meet after lodge and go to a brother's house and sit around and enjoy each other's company, or they go to a restaurant or a bar or something like that and just enjoy each other's company. All those things add up to being closer and knitting those bonds even closer. The closer we can get to those bonds, or the tighter we make those bonds, the better we will be as brothers and as Masons. For lack of a better term, we should be a fraternity. There's too many things that happen in the course of our lives where we need other people to, we need to depend on other people. We need to talk to other people. And sometimes, talking to just Joe Smith, our friend that we work with every day, is not a real good idea. But someone that we can talk to as a Masonic brother, now that's a little bit different. Now you've got somebody that you can really lean on and depend on, and you know that your discussion is not going to go any further. But you've got to have that bond built already. Otherwise, sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes we need to be strong and firm with somebody that's faltering. And we can't do that if we don't have that personal relationship, that we haven't built that bond through the fellowship. Sometimes just remembering a brother is married or is going through some issues with his wife, or their son broke a leg, or their daughter's in ballet, or something just that small can mean a lot to a brother if we just ask about it and we have that fellowship and we've actually paid attention to it. That's the toughest part that a lot of us struggle with. I'm not perfect. They aren't perfect, but we try to make each other better. And that's the way we always try to be. If we are true Masons, we try to build those bonds together. We have to find time for fellowship, whether it be after the meeting, whether it be some other place away from the lodge, and not just when we're sitting down to a meal before we go to our stated meeting. We like to do that. And then, people just go home, and that's just not enough. There has to be other times, whether it be at a Grandmaster's conference, or it be at the Alamo observance, or it be at, some other thing, some other function. Even if it's just our fundraiser, our lodge fundraisers, where we're sitting down and talking to each other as friends and brothers, instead of just as the worshipful master and the senior warden and whoever it may be that's there. Titles are great. They're there for distinction, and I respect titles tremendously. But in the end, it's about the bond of brotherhood that we're all here for. Only way to get that is through fellowship. Take the time to listen to your brothers. Take the time to get to know your brothers. Spend those hours doing fellowship. Spend that time doing fellowship. It's the only way that we can truly call each other brother and mean it. We all took an obligation. Every one of us did. That obligation is very, very important. But it's a reason for us to come together, but it's only this much of a total brotherhood. We've got to go from being just Masons to being brothers. And the only way to do that I know of is through fellowship. Take the time to get to know brothers. Take the time to ask questions. There's a lot of guys that I've been friends and brothers with. I don't even, it's a shame to say, but we don't ever talk about what we do for a living. It's really funny whenever we go, what do you do for a living now? And they go, oh, I do this. And then somebody goes, well, what do you do? And I tell them what I do. And they go, man, I never would have pictured that. I thought you were doing this or this. And it's a fun conversation to have. But that's part of getting to know stuff and that fellowship that goes along. We've had so much other fellowship that we don't actually talk about our personal jobs or something like that. Those are good conversations to have. Maybe ask that conversation. Talk to someone that you haven't spoken with in a while and go, hey, now what is it you do for a living again? What is it, you're married and you have what, 2 kids? What were their names again? And start that personal conversations. That's the kind of fellowship that builds true bonds. That's the kind of fellowship that makes us brothers, not just Masons. Spend the time to get to know your brethren. Spend the time to experience what Masonry truly has to offer. It brings together tons of people in all different walks of life. I talk about this all the time in lodges I go and visit. There's no way that the guys that do this podcast that we would have ever met. We would never have been friends if Masonry wasn't involved. That just brought us together, put us in the same room. But would any of us really know each other more in depth without being in the same room? Okay, that's the start. Now we've got to really start talking and build those bonds. There's a lodge I know of that has what they call harmony after lodge, and they all sit around and enjoy beverages and cigars and hang out at another brother's house. And they do it after every single meeting. Every time they meet at their lodge, they go and have harmony after. It's a great way to build bonds. They talk Masonry. They talk personal stuff. They talk about drawing designs and how they're going to, do a certain project. They might even, they've come up with a ton of different fundraisers at this harmony that they have. They've done all kinds of different things through that one project of getting to know each other and through true fellowship. Experience true fellowship. Get to know your brothers.